Hi there everyone, we're back. There was just a little problem with the onion, but that's okay. We're gonna get right back into cooking. Turn the fan on a little bit. You don't want to get fumes everywhere. That's okay. So now back to cutting up our onion. Kind of like so. These onions look good. We're just gonna take the skin off. Then what we're going to do is we're going to cut these into half. We're gonna cut our half. We're gonna have half onion moons. Now we'll peel off the skin of our next onion. Check on our rice, see if it's boiling. It's coming to a boil very soon. So we'll keep a close eye on that. We're still recording, which is wonderful. The rice is coming to a boil. Should have kept a closer watch on that, but that's okay. We'll set that to simmer, and now we're gonna wait 20 minutes on that. Now I'll set my timer. There we go, timer's on for 20 minutes, and now we're gonna get to our next step. We're actually gonna cut the onions. Cut them like this. Then we're actually going to start cutting. Then we're actually going to cut them like this, like so. A handy tip: when you seem to run out of space to cut with your hand, and you feel like you're going to cut yourself, rotate the onion. So rotate the onion 90 degrees, and then you'll have a better cutting angle. I think if you have like some little piece of onion, most you want half moons, but if you feel like that some you want to break up more, you can cut them into smaller bits. So for example, we have this onion that's like this right here. You can't really see because I don't have the light on. I just turned it off, sorry. There you go, light's on. Or that doesn't really do much, but that's okay. So we have our onion like this. And then I'm gonna cut it. See how when I'm cutting it like this, the onion reduces in size? That's okay, I can just turn it like this. So then now I have from this way to this way, so now I have much more room to cut without cutting myself. So we're gonna start cutting it like this. That's what it looks like long ways. This is what it looks like on the sideways shot. If they're not perfect, that's totally okay. We're still recording, that's wonderful. Now we're gonna cut the next onions. Turn. Turn. I had to turn a couple times on that one. And now some are shorter and some are longer. That's wonderful. And now we'll cut our other half. Take a look at our rice. This is looking wonderful. Now, I highly recommend getting a spoon and stirring. That way your rice isn't clumped everywhere. We'll stir just a little bit. We'll stir a little bit. We'll stir it just a little bit because we want it for that liquid to come down. Now I'll turn again. Whoop. Ah, sorry, I can't cook. Or I can't cut, rather. And these go into the tray. So now our onions are cut. These will be used a lot later, so they're not going to be used now. But I recommend you sit tight while we make the pork now. So here are our wonderful pork chops. Put them right onto the cutting board. Or rather, I'll get my other cutting board and lay them out on top of that cutting board. Or I will be able to tenderize them. Sorry, just a little clunky. These over here for now. We're gonna take our pork chops. Before we actually let them out, get out our meat tenderizer because we're gonna need to tenderize the meat with this mallet-looking thingy. It's really a wonderful thing. Get out some butterfly chops. Now you might say, Christopher, you're gonna make all this pork? I thought you were only feeding 4 people. And you're right, we are feeding 4 people. But we're going to say the magical word that begins with F-R-E-E and ends with Z, and that's freeze. So when you make these pork cutlets, you can actually sorry, I'm just crying a little bit because of the onion. But when you make these pork cutlets, you can actually freeze them. You can't freeze the whole dish with the egg and the rice and the sauce and the everything like that. But you can freeze the pork cutlets, and I've frozen and unfrozen them before, and they've actually turned out pretty good. So we're gonna take this spiky side and start tenderizing the meat. We're going to tenderize this meat and make it really nice and good. You want it to be tender, but you don't want it to be too flat. Because if it's too flat, then the breading won't stick on. It'll be actually crispy, but the breading just won't stick on. So you want that right balance between being too not flat enough and not tender enough, or being not tender and thick, or being too tender and flat. You do the other side. I've done both sides on that one. Good. Good. You don't need to do the other side too much. Wonderful. So now we're gonna put our meat tenderizer away. Put it over there for now. We're gonna stir our rice with the other hand. That rice is nice and creamy and stirred. Lid back on. Wonderful. We'll check the time on that rice. Done in 12 minutes. Now we're gonna take our knife and our fork. These haven't touched any raw meat, so they can be used on the raw meat. We'll cut these cutlets in half. Right down the middle. You always want to remember to let the knife do the work. Don't do too much hacking and sawing. Whenever I make this dish, I get really nostalgic for the winter months because I remember fondly going out shopping with my dad the first time I made this dish to get all the ingredients. And I distinctly remember coming home in the car with him from the Japanese supermarket we went to in Edgewater. And I made it and the dish and it turned out really nicely. So I have really fond memories of making this dish and coming home. And it just gives all sorts of good feelings.